Inside Santa Fe Public Schools podcast. I am Joe Abeyta, and I'd like to welcome you to our podcast. This is my first podcast with the schools in my new role here in Santa Fe Public Schools, and with us today is the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for Santa Fe Public Schools, Sonya Gunter. How you doing today, Sonya?
I am doing well. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing good. You know, getting into the new role and whatnot. And
yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's been a lot of fun here working at the schools, and yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Awesome.
I want to thank you for joining us today. We're here to talk about registration, right? School registration.
Yes.
And it could be a very exciting and nervous time for new parents, because I want to hit kind of the aspects of the different types of registration that we have. But I really wanted to start off with new parents. What is it that someone that's a young student that's getting ready to go into their first year of kindergarten, what would the process be for that?
Well, all the families would need to do is go to www.sfps.info and click on the enrollment button that is sort of in the middle of the web page. And once they click on that, we have both in English and in Spanish different registration portals. Mm-hmm. And so if you are a student that's never attended any Santa Fe public school, you would click on new student enrollment.
Okay, and that wouldn't just go for kindergarten. That would go for folks that move in from out of town.
Correct.
Right? That they're planning on attending, or you've been in private school the entire time here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That was kind of what happened with me. I was a private school kid all the way to 8th grade. And then my first year I went to Santa Fe High, was my first dose of public school.
And I'm an SFPS lifer, so
I really?
Started from the beginning.
That's awesome.
Graduated through.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, you hear all these stories, in the Catholic school halls, that they ride their motorcycles in the hallways at Santa Fe High and stuff freshmen in the lockers and stuff. And I never experienced there was never a big enough locker to put a human being at Santa Fe High.
Same at Capitol.
Right? Because they just had those portable, they were like the half lockers. So it's like, exactly. You have to be a really tiny person to be stuffed in those things. But yep. Anyway, I'm sorry. We're kind of going off on a detour there. But so any new student would go through that process, right?
Correct.
Okay, great. So let's just say, what if I were to be transferring, to another school? I went to Santa Fe High my sophomore year, and then Capitol opened, and I went to Capitol. Is there any new registration required for that?
Yes. So anytime that you move from one school site to another school site, you would not use the new student registration portal. You would use the returning student registration portal.
Okay.
And what that does is it takes all of the original information that was already put into the new student registration portal when you first entered into Santa Fe Public Schools. It basically bypasses a lot of those questions and just focuses on the most pertinent questions to get you registered effectively from school site to school site. So if you are currently have a kiddo that's in a pre-K program, even if they are in-house, if they are a pre-K kiddo, say at Nino Otero, and they're planning on going to kindergarten at Nino Otero, because they've already used the new registration portal to start in pre-K, they would need to go to the returning registration portal to start with kindergarten. Now, that situation is specifically only for pre-K. So if you're currently a pre-K family moving into a kindergarten class, you do need to register your kiddo and register them using the returning registration portal. If you have an interzone transfer, let's say you started out at Sweeney and now you're going to try attending Cesar Chavez, what you would do then is also go to registration portal. If you are a current 8th grader who is either going to one of our high schools, because you, again, are going to a new school, you would still use the returning student portal for the registration. Okay,
so I got a question. What if, when you say interzone transfer, is that something you can do online? So if you, let's say, is there a process that you got to do? If you go on to new existing student or registration or whatever it is. I'm sorry, I apologize, not getting the lingo right, but
no
you get what I'm saying. Do you need permission? Like, is there going to be some kind of authorization? Is the transferring part of it going to stop you saying, do you have authorization or approval to be able to transfer to the school? Because anybody can go in and say, well, I really don't like going to this school. I think I want to go to this school next year.
Right.
And they just go, I'm just going to go online and do that process, and then I'm registered. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no approval. Does it stop you from that? Is that something that you see?
Yes. So a couple of things. When you go into the Santa Fe Public Schools website, the button that you are actually clicking to do your registration says transfer lottery and enrollment.
Okay.
So all of that information is in the same button, and it's all on the same page. But if you are, let's say, at Santa Fe High and you're interested in transferring to Capitol High, you do have to apply for a transfer, and the transfer has to be granted. Once you get the approval for the transfer, you're notified via email, and you take a screenshot of that email, showing that you accepted the seat once it was offered to you. So then when you go to register, when it's time to upload your documents, you have to upload proof of the transfer approval in order for us to be able to move you over. Otherwise, you'll be placed back at your home zone school.
Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty cool. It seems like a pretty seamless process, huh?
For the most part.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Okay. And I'm looking here at a document here, at some information here, and I'm seeing Power School Parent Portal.
Yes.
What is that? Can you explain that to me?
Yes. So the Power School Parent Portal, or otherwise known as the public portal, is where the families can go to check on information regarding their kiddos. It might be based on, they might be looking for the kiddos' grades, they might be looking for the kiddos' schedule, anything like that. Within that portal, you are able to access, if you are a student who is going to register that is already enrolled in Santa Fe Public Schools, again, going from school to school, you would go into that portal and click on the returning students icon, and there you'd be able to register pretty easily. And you shouldn't have any problems. It's essentially, it takes you, if you do it straight from the Power School portal, it should be pretty seamless. If you're brand new, you are using actually like an outside form that we have you fill out that then gets imported into Power School.
Do a lot of people, I'm sure there's parents that come in. Is it still, is it one of those things where you don't have to come in, you don't have to come down to the schools to register, you can do everything online, right? There's not an old school way of doing it, right?
Right. So gone are the days of paper and pencil registration. We don't even have any physical forms for you to fill out. So what is nice about this is that you can do everything from your phone, tablet, computer. If you are having any sort of issue, you can go to your school site, and the school secretaries can help you with your registration there. But essentially, the idea is you click the link, you fill out all the information for your kiddos, and then at the end, you take the pictures of the required documents and upload them, and then just essentially hit submit. And then if there's any questions about what you submitted, you can then just call 505-467-4111 or send an email to studentdataoffice@sfps.k12.nm.us and have that conversation as far as, what's still needed, if there's missing paperwork, if something wasn't clear on the registration form.
That brings me to my next question, which would be, what is the number one mistake that you see that's made for registration?
So the biggest mistake or the biggest challenge that we have noticed is the documents and uploading the documents. And so what we try to do is make it a little more seamless with just having your phone camera take a picture and then click upload while you're doing the registration. That helps a lot. Also making sure that you have the correct documentation. So it's just taking that time to read about what is required as far as the registration documents go.
What are the most I guess documents that people need to really just, it's not that difficult. We're just asking for this information. What would it be?
So one is the birth certificate. We need a birth certificate. We do need a copy of the immunizations. And then we also need a copy of the guardian's license or photo ID. So that way we can check and make sure that it matches on the birth certificate. If for some reason it doesn't, then we'll need the court documents showing that the person who is registering the student has the educational rights to be registering the students. The other thing that we need is a proof of residence. And when I say this, I am not joking. We get them every year. We get pictures of people's houses showing us where they live.
Oh, wow.
And really online, we do have a list of all the acceptable documents as far as proof of residence goes. And so we understand that sometimes you're living in a situation where you might not have a gas bill because your landlord might be paying for it. And so we have a few little workarounds, and all of those workarounds are on that same link that I was talking about previously. You just click on it, and then it shows you if you're in column A, you only have to submit one item from column A. If you don't have anything there, then you can submit a combination of items from column B and column C, and that way we can establish proof of residency.
Great. I was gonna, how many students do you typically that go through this process? How many families, how many students usually go through this process annually?
The registration process?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would say, a couple thousand.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We usually have on average, about 1,200 to 1,400 interzone requests a year. Mm-hmm. And so that on top of the natural movement from school site to school site, sixth grade into a middle school or eighth grade into high school, we have that large amount of movement, and so we have to process all of those applications.
And impressive. I think just by talking to you here, impressive because there's never a child that is like kind of left on the curb waiting to go to school, right? All those thousands of kids that are new registers that register with the schools, or what were they, new registrants or new students, I guess you would say.
Sure.
New students, they find themselves going to school eventually. Everything is good to go and it works. Everything works out, right? There's no need to panic because this is a process that happens every year.
And sometimes we have some unusual situations that occur, and we do have some processes to help with families. Like sometimes when we have a family coming in from Chicago and they're maybe having a house built, but they have to rent something, and when they're registering, they don't have their new, temporary address. Mm-hmm. So then we'll work with that family on getting the paperwork in a specific timeline. And, we really try to work as well as we can with the families to make sure that there's nothing preventing the student from being in a school for the first day of school. Now, there's always a lot of in-betweens, but one thing I really want to impress upon the folks today is please get your registration going. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the documents, if you register now and you don't have your documents, you need a little time to gather them. Yeah. At least most of your registration is done, so we can start pushing forward. And the second we get your documents, then we can flip your kid right into a school.
Okay, before we get to, because I have something fun to ask you, because you'll remember this, but I want to get to, when can people start registering?
We're already in the registration process.
That's already started.
So we like to start registering around March, and we usually do some social media push outs and things like that. The school sites host family nights. I know the high schools, it's quite an affair. They do it on weekends where the families can come in, the kids take their pictures for their student IDs. I mean, it's every school really owns their own registration time.
Okay.
Once, the registration has been sort of taken care of, then what my office does is we actually process the information. The school sites really help us if families for some reason can't do a quick upload of the documents or things like that. So, March is when we really start it all.
Okay, so when they register for the school, it automatically will go to the school saying, so they'll be able to reach out to them saying, hey, we're doing it on this night. We're having this event on this night. If you want to, is that the way it works? Is it like that, or
it's not? It really does depend.
Okay.
So if you are a feeder school, so like let's say you're Ortiz, the chances are all of those kids at Ortiz they're going to go to Capital. So Capital will start reaching out to those kids, to those families, sending emails to the families saying, hey, we've got these registration. They put the information on their marquee. They do social media outreach, that sort of thing.
Okay. So it's really, hey, if you want more information, look for go to your school page, Santa Fe High or Capital High or middle schools too, Milagro, Ortiz. And they will have some kind of information on their website, or look for their Twitter handle or their social media handle and look to see what the updates are there. You'll be able to find those there too as well.
Exactly. And but for the most part, the idea is you don't even have to do a lot of that.
Yeah.
You can just get on your phone, go to the website, click that link, fill it out, and take some pictures, upload those pictures, and hit submit.
Gotcha.
And then if there's any problems, you'll get a call or an email from my office saying, hey, we're missing this document, or how can we help, that
awesome.
sort of thing.
That's good. So I got to ask you something then.
Yes.
So when you go back and you watch old episodes of 21 Jump Street, you say, that'll never happen through registration, right? You know what I'm talking about, right, Sonya?
I like that you think I'm old enough to know what 21 Jump Street is.
You don't? Well, you went to Capital, I was going to say, right?
I totally know.
Okay, I was going to say, you went to Capital, so I'm thinking...
I graduated in the 90s. I was a little kid when 21 Jump Street did come out, but really? I do remember it.
Okay, well, I was going to say, if you went to Capital in the 90s, wasn't 21 Jump Street like all the way to like 98 or something like that?
No.
It wasn't?
I think it ended before then.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, well, the movie came out, right?
Yes.
A few years ago, so there you go. What other movie would have had an adult in it?
Never Been Kissed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I could have used that too.
So you want to know if adults can sneak in as kids?
Well, no. I'm just wondering when you're watching that, you go, that could never happen. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that was the paper pencil registration, right?
Yes.
Exactly. And you could just go in, but now we have to have birth certificates, and they have to not be whited out or modified in any sort of way.
I got to think of a situation like that's a little bit more current. That way I don't embarrass myself when I'm asking that stuff. But 21 Jump Street, the movie just came out 5 years ago. So
no, I remember it was Johnny Depp. He was in the original one.
Well, there was Johnny Depp, and then what's the guy? He's
Greco. There was a
there was what's his name? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Anyway, we can catch up after the podcast on that, But Sonya, thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it, and we'd like to have you on again and we can talk about other things, because it's not just registration that you oversee. There's a lot of other stuff that you do for the schools. Absolutely, and one thing I would love to come back and talk about more is when we're getting ready to open the transfer lottery. I'd like to come back and talk about that, and just so that the families are fully informed about all of their choices and how the lottery actually works. Yeah, no, awesome. Well, thanks again. Yeah, thank you. And folks, thank you. Thank you for your patience. This was my first podcast here for Inside Santa Fe Public Schools. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank our guest, the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for the Santa Fe Public Schools, Sonya Gunter. And folks, have a safe week. Have a great week. Adios.